He had cold, calculated reasoning for his decisions, and the reforms were kept closely in check. The bloodshed of the last decade in Warsaw was evidence enough of that. There were limits to the tolerance of the new Soviet Union, limits that the People's Republic of China would have done well to note. Gradenko had seen sprawling, chanting mobs of student protests turn Beijing into a gridlock as they demanded all the freedom and chaos that democracy would bring, even as China's far-flung ethnic minorities began to speak about freedom of their own. While China's barbarian border peoples rattled their sabers and hinted at bloody dissolution of the state that had been a nation for only a handful of decades, the Soviets had instead welcomed the Ukrainian and the Georgian. They'd uplifted the Muslim and Cossack and shown them the benefits to be reaped from true socialism. Or so it was said. The engine of Gradenko's Lada purred as it crossed the Bolshoi-Moskvoretsky Bridge over the cold blue waters of the Moskva River. As they approached, Gradenko got his first clear glimpse of the ancient buildings of the Kremlin. The blocky and gilded form of the Grand Kremlin Palace remained every bit as impressive as it was when it was first built, 150 years ago. The Minister of Foreign Affairs wondered to himself how the old Tsars who'd overseen its construction would have felt knowing that their palaces would one day house a revolutionary government, a government of the people, whose power derived not from a self-proclaimed God-given mandate, but from the inevitability of history, power held by the common man, the working man. The thought brought a glimmer of a smile to his face, one that he was careful to keep in check. It was a government of the people, to be sure, but it was hardly perfect. All he had to do was spare a glance at his driver to be reminded of that. Poor old Yuri must think he was in good standing with the Gradenko family, and Andrei in particular. Yuri thought that he could hide his fresh income source from his boss, as if the golden flash of the Rolex on his wrist was not a dead giveaway that Gradenko's driver was in the employ of someone else. The foreign minister suspected the old ghosts in the KGB, Karamazov and his ilk, though it was just as possible he was working for another faction in the government, the military, or perhaps even a rival in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Gradenko was certain enough that they existed, even though they were too afraid to openly reveal themselves. It was the Soviet way. Act in the shadows and strike only when you were certain of victory. Risk nothing, gain everything. It was all very traditional and all very off-putting. The Lada's old tires rumbled as it cleared the bridge, drawing near to the towering walls of the Kremlin. The tires were in dire need of replacement, something that was easier now than it had been during the dark early days of Andropov's government, but still a tall task, especially with the military expansion projects drawing in vast quantities of supplies. The economic liberalizations of the 1970s and 1980s had helped to relieve some, but not all, of the strain on the old economic system, one that had survived since the bleak days of Stalin. The powerful concept of a central command economy was unassailable on paper, much like the ideals of communism itself. It was found in practice that conceptualizing such heady ideas was often easier than carrying them out. The ideal outreached the real. The Bolshoi-Moskvoretsky Bridge was emblematic of Moscow as a whole to Gradenko. Not only was it a landmark of the city, it was functional and practical as well. As the first concrete bridge in the city, it dated back to before the Great Patriotic War. Gradenko could not help but think of it as an edifice that spanned not only a river, but time itself. It connected the dim era of the Tsars, the turbulent darkness of the Revolution and Stalinist era, and the glittering future of the Soviet Union as a global superpower and pioneer of outer space itself.